we have talked about Anthony Edwards. I trash talked him for my trash talk for basically saying, not basically, he flat out stated Michael Jordan was the only player with skills in the 1990s. And boy, have a plethora of all-time greats ripped him. I'm a just list them from best to worst. And worst, none of them were worst. They're all fantastic. But obviously Magic Johnson, who you could, I would not. I think he's fourth best player ever. Almost universally recognized as a top 5 player of all time.
Yes.
And some would probably argue he's the best player ever. Then you had Isaiah Thomas, who I think is the second best small player of all time, next to Steph Curry. Isaiah.
You had Steph take over Zeke?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Isaiah would tell you he's the best.
The four. I got it.
I love Isaiah. He was the best small player ever before Steph came along, but that's arguable. But yeah, I got Steph, then Isaiah. And then, of course, Kevin Garnett, who was a great leader and player and got that ring with the Boston Celtics. He's the latest to weigh in on this and rip Anthony Edwards. And here's what KG said.
I don't think anybody in this generation could have played like 20 years ago. If I'm being 100, and this is to everybody in our league, Tatum, all y'all. Let me tell y'all something, bro. 20 years ago, bro, you couldn't get to a triple step back. You hear what I'm saying to you? You couldn't get to a triple step back, and then if you shot that, it had to go in. You know why? Because we had efficiency back in the day, my dude, and it was so hard. It was too physical.
Yeah.
All right. I'll let you have the first stab at this.
I'm with him. I'm on that side of, I'll be the old guy in the barbershop.
He said something strong.
Yeah, I'll be
the get up. These dudes couldn't play back then?
Yeah, absolutely. Once again, and you mentioned it yesterday. Honestly, I thought you said it perfectly. The GOAT debate, Chris, has really kind of fueled all of this because now what we have to do is we have to tear down who people played against, right? And that's what people do. Whether people want to try to gloss it over, no, he didn't play against this guy. He didn't play. The physicality, he's right about that. We watched it growing up. You covered it. So you lived through it. You sat courtside and watched it. The triple step back, the carrying that we talked about yesterday. It is a different game. And the guaranteed money, the contracts are so astronomical for these guys. There's a little softness in that, man. You know how what Big Mama used to tell us? Anything that comes easier is given to you. You're not going to work as hard for. So once you got your contract, that's why we don't see players not improve, but they don't take, everybody in the league doesn't take that astronomical step and get better. But I'm with him on that. He's right. It was harder. It was more physical. You can really set real picks. Chris, how many real picks do you see in a basketball game nowadays? I'm talking real hands crossed in front of you, across your midsection, bro, and you got to run through me. You can't skip over. It's not, well, let me act like I'm going to set a pick and then slide real quick so I can get to the pick and pop or so I can get down to the post. It was a much physical game. I'm with him definitely on that. I agree with what KG said, 100%.
Well, there's no doubt it was more physical.
Yes.
That's just inarguable. Even Anthony, well, he admitted that people say it was tougher back then. And he's right about that. But look, and you said it from the get-go. Now, because of the GOAT debate, and it's almost becoming a 90s, because that's when Jordan dominated, versus a current day, because this is when LeBron's dominated. It's almost become a battle of eras now, not just a battle of Jordan versus LeBron. And the young boys are going way too far in ripping the 90s. And KG, and I get it, but this is KG going too far on them. KG's bothered by it, and I get it, because he played in the 90s. He was great in the 2000 aughts. He's an all-time great. That's his era. Yep. And you're darn right. He's like, are you crazy? I was talking with an agent. I could probably name him, and I don't think he'd care, but I won't. But he was talking the same stuff about, today's players. This is LeBron's facing better competition. These players are better than the ones Jordan faced. And this guy played high school ball in the 90s, late 90s, and his team went to the state. and I think they may have even won a state championship. And so he was a good player and on a good team. And I said to him, I said, hold up. Your high school team now, would they beat your high school team that you played on in the late 90s? He was like, nah. Heck. I was like, well, why not?
Yeah.
Aren't isn't everybody better? You know, and so you caught him. So KG is going too far though in saying none of these guys could play in the 20 years ago. And here's why I say that, VeeJay. Because, well, let me throw this out. That's the equivalent, what he's saying. It was so physical, you know, you couldn't get this, you couldn't get that. That's essentially the same thing as the young boy saying, man, them dudes couldn't even play today because they didn't shoot the three like we do. They don't have the handles that we do. They weren't nearly, at least league-wide, they weren't as athletic overall as we are. And they both have points. But my point that trumps them all is this. And I think you'll agree with me, VeeJay.
All right.
The superstars of every era would be at least stars in any era. And this is what I mean. People look, Bob Cousy,
I like how you said that.
You really watch Bob Cousy's tape, and you will be like, "Oh my God, bruh was a passer phenomenal.
Yep,
he was an awesome passer. He made some passes that Magic made and Pistol Pete Maravich made and all that. But my point is this: give Bob Cousy all the benefits that Steve Nash or John Stockton or Isaiah Thomas had.
Yeah,
charter flights, better sneakers." Yep. Year-round play. You didn't have to work another job.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yep.
Weight training, nutritionist, and Bob Cousy would be just as good as those guys.
Softer game, not hard fouls, not as many hard fouls, not as many picks, not as many grabs, like all of that. I'm with you 100%.
And I'm just saying, like, and this is the thing. No, Michael Jordan did not shoot the three-pointer as well as Devin Booker and it's a lot of these two guards today. But put Michael Jordan in this era, and I guarantee you
40
that he would have been a very good three-point shooter. Right?
Yeah.
And I say the same thing backwards. Yes, LeBron is playing in a much softer era. But put LeBron in the 90s, and he would have adapted. And he would have been able to handle the contact and the physical play and all of that. That's all I'm saying. And that's why, VeeJay, you can have, if you got a top 75 team, you can have the best players of the 60s and 70s on that team. Even though if you took Bill Russell as he was, right, in 1963, and put him in today's game, he would have trouble. He was a 44% shooter, right? As he was. He was a 44% shooter taking all of his shots in the paint. But give that Bill Russell all the benefits of today.
Yeah.
As I mentioned before, the weight training, etc. And he would be nasty.
Better than what?
Yes, at 6'9", he would have been nasty because Ben Wallace was nasty.
Yeah.
Right? Draymond Green is the Garden Centers and nasty. So don't tell me Bill Russell wouldn't be. And so that's my point, VeeJay, is that you can give Dr. J the benefits that these cats have.
My guy.
And he would be Dr. J.
Yeah, my guy. I'll give you another one. How about Wilt?
Oh, my God.
And Wilt was just a pure athlete. He high jumped. People forget. He high jumped, okay, at the University of Kansas. Like you talk about, he had a 50 in 25 year, all right? So today, but still, listen, Wilt would average 40 today. No. He'd average 35 to 40 points. Yeah, easily. Jordan would, easily 35 to 40 points today.
Jordan would, Will wouldn't.
Nah. Will, who would?
It was just,
who would guard him? Who would guard him?
You can't, those numbers are cartoonish.
Who would guard him?
You can't take those numbers, and that's one thing I will say. You can't, like the reason they averaged 26 rebounds a game, him and Bill Russell, is one. Most of the other players were smaller.
But I'm pulling those numbers down though, Chris. In today's game,
I'll give way down.
In today's game,
ain't nobody averaging 26 rebounds a game.
I'm pulling them down. In today's game though, give me 38 and 16, 38 and 17. That's easy. Kevin Love had a year where he averaged 16, 17 rebounds. So it can be done in today's era if you want to go get the rebound. So it's been done. You see what I'm saying?
Kevin Love was a long time ago. Nobody's averaged 20 rebounds in a long time.
I didn't say 20, though. I said 17. Somebody could get up to 16, 17. Will could today.
Yeah, I mean, Rodman averaged 18.
Exactly. But if you put him in today's game where he just focused on rebounding, he'd average 18 again. But
he didn't just focus on rebounding until late in his career.
I agree with you, though, as far as the translation. There are guys today that I could put in different eras and that would still be great. I just think the number of players from the past that could play at a high level or the same level with, as you mentioned, all of today's additives to the game, especially the way the game is called. Like, I'll take someone just from like the 90s, 2000 area. Could you imagine AI, Mr. Bubba Chuck, the answer in today's game where you can, like you say, you can carry the ball. You can literally walk.
He carried it back then.
And travel, yeah. But today would be
what it was that started.
Well, I always tell people this: the Jordan crossover is a carry, and it's not to knock him, but it's a complete carry. That's why Jordan got caught with it.
Dispute. I remember asking Tim Hardaway, who one of the architects or perfecters of the crossover, about AI when AI was a rookie, and there was a big controversy. And I said to Hardaway, what you think of AI is, his crossover? He said, it's a travel.
Yeah.
It's a palm. Yeah. It's a walk. It's a carry. But here's what I look, KG, and he's right. Like, one reason back then, first of all, guys did shoot the three-pointer fairly well. But there was an apprehension to shooting the three-pointer back then, because it wasn't viewed as a good shot in most cases. And so when if I take this shot, I better make it, that puts a little more pressure on you. Now they're shooting threes with no pressure at all.
They're just jacking them up.
Right? Yeah. And so I think there's that. Also, you cannot tell me, if you put Kevin Garnett in this era, that he would not have developed. And he already had a good handle.
Yeah.
And he could shoot the J. But in today's game, the way they want you to play, he would have been a phenomenal perimeter player.
Yeah. Like a stretch four.
Shaq had handle.
He did.
Shaq had a decent jumper. I played with Shaq, and I know I'm nothing. And I'm not just saying that jokingly, but I know I'm nothing compared to these guys. But I played with Shaq. He dropped a three-pointer in my face to win the game. So Shaq had perimeter skills, but back then big men didn't do that.
Why didn't you block?
And he knew I could put 50 on you in the paint. And so if you encourage Shaq to have play on the perimeter and use his perimeter skills, then I think it's a whole different issue. And so that Kareem had perimeter skills.
Yeah, especially
there's a video, and I hate to say it, because Dr. J was my favorite player, but Kareem and Dr. J playing one-on-one, and Kareem was really getting the best of it. I'm going to say it respectfully.
Yeah.
Respectfully, he was really getting the best of Dr. J.
Giving him the business.
And he could get out on the floor and guard. He could dribble. He could shoot. So Kareem has always said, he told me, if he played today, he'd play like Giannis. I actually think he'd be more skilled than Giannis. Yeah. I think he'd shoot better than Giannis. But, yeah, so that's how I look at it, VeeJay. I think you put players today in that era where it was more physical, and they'd have to adjust. And
you
so,
think
and let me
they
finally,
could, though, Chris?
I think they could. I think they'd have to.
See, the mentality is the only thing that
wouldn't even have
stops
a choice
me from that. Yeah, or you just get punked out of the league. It's just too tough for you.
Yeah, but I think I have no question that these dudes could play. Okay. And like I said, that's the same thing as saying, could Charles Oakley play today? Well, Charles Oakley would be a better shooter today. Because he wasn't that skilled, but he had a nice little elbow jumper.
Yeah, but
if you say he couldn't play today, and as he was, there's not that much room for a guy like that.
Yeah.
But if he's growing up today and he's working on those things and he's encouraged to by his coaches, he'd be fine. So that's why I'm not going to say these guys couldn't play back then or those guys couldn't play today.
Yeah.
All right.